해가 잠이 드는 그 순간 나도 모르게 그냥 기분 좋았죠. 별빛도 참 예쁘니까.
We will see various scenes like the one that I have stopped at. Let's discuss this chandelier motif that will be present throughout the video. It ties along with the motif of shadows versus light as well. First, let's look at the opening scene. Go-won stands below a chandelier as light comes into the dark hall, illuminating her. The chandelier looks similar to a crown, doesn't it? That's exactly what it represents. Right now the chandelier lights are unlit, which indicates that whatever notion Go-won is supposed to learn has not yet been encountered. As we already have established, light represents good, but also enlightenment. The light pouring over her foreshadows the knowledge she will gain that will lead her to enlightenment. We also see Go-won walk down the hallway with her back facing us. Hallways have very interesting symbolic meaning. Hallways are seen as transitional spaces, a pathway to your innermost being. Where do they lead? You usually enter one end unsure of where you will go, and exit at the other side, reborn or resurrected. They, again, reflect transition. Hallways even have doors that lead to many possibilities. In the scene though, Go-won walks down to the end of the hallway, seeking a rebirth into who she envisions herself as. She opens the window, below the chandelier, to let in more light. Windows let in light of knowledge or understanding, something that we established Go-won seeks. These scenes again foreshadow the journey we will see Go-won embark on in order to find herself and feel complete within how she perceives herself.
나와 발맞춰서 걸어준 그림자가 한 걸음 먼저 다가올 땐 어둠도 밝게 느껴져.
Now it's time to discuss the shadow motif that will appear frequently in this video. Go-won just sang, "Walking alongside me, when that shadow takes a step towards me, even the darkness feels bright." In this, she is obviously referring to her own shadow, as only his shadow could walk beside her. But what do shadows represent? Well, humans exist in a realm of duality. The same goes for the girls who exist in the Loonaverse. Nothing can exist without its exact opposite in the realm of duality. This characteristic is especially applicable to the Loonaverse. The physical and visible person consists of all of the characteristics, dreams, and ideals that we have exhibited within our everyday self. The second is our invisible shadow person, which consists of the characteristics, dreams, and ideals we have chosen not to show to the world. This notion will be observable later on when we see the difference between Go-won and her shadow. Anyways, based on what we have stated about our shadows, there is one observation we can make. Our shadow is the dark, hidden, unmanifested version of ourselves. In it are all of the characteristics and choices of the person we will not become, are afraid to become, or have not yet become. Shadows contain the unknown aspect of ourselves that we are reluctant to experience or exhibit. But now, let's tie these aspects of our shadow in with the lyrics Go-won sings. As she states, even the darkness feels light when her shadow steps toward her. What does she mean? Well, shadows not only represent darkness, but also chaos, and reflect the dark womb in which we were born from. In Greek mythology, chaos was the black void in which the first gods were created. Chaos is the womb in which the universe came from. So, our shadows are aspects of ourselves that can lead to emerging parts of ourselves. Since they hold aspects of ourselves we have yet to reveal, or are afraid to reveal, shadows hold the key that can lead to the rebirth of our being and our ego, since the shadow in itself is essentially our alter ego. Shadows also grow stronger with light. The stronger the light source, the denser the shadow. Along the same lines, the more enlightened we become, the more unmanifested essences are revealed within the shadow. The brightest individuals possess the darkest shadows. When Go-won says that even the darkness feels bright, that's her coming to terms within the aspects of herself that are hidden within her shadow. Go-won is learning to love herself as a whole. Doesn't this scene look familiar? It may have passed too quickly, so let's recap. We first see a door open to let light in. Next, we see Cherry hanging from the ceiling, holding an apple. This not only parallels Nu, but Kiss Later as well. In fact, a lot of the motifs we see in one and only mirror that of Kiss Later. The blue halls, the chandeliers on the ceiling, the windows, being chased. They are all parallel. Especially Cherry hanging upside down. We saw the Frog Prince do this as well. Anyways, after this, we see that Cherry is holding an apple, presumably one designated for Go-won. After this, we suddenly see Chu and Eve spying on Go-won. Go-won turns around from the window to see who has entered the hallway. Cherry dropped the apple, and then we get the scene like the one we saw Vivi do in Nu. In Nu, when Vivi made this face, we knew it meant that she had realized something. The same goes for Go-won here. What could Go-won realize? Perhaps just the power of the apple and the knowledge that comes with it. Let's also take a look at the lyrics Go-won sings. She says, "That door has opened, baby," after we saw the door open to let Cherry, Chu, and Eve in. But what do doors represent? Let's explain this recurring motif as well. Doors can represent a lot of things, like transition from one stage of life to another, divide between good and evil, or divide between worlds. It even can represent something locked away that isn't to be touched or unearthed by anyone, like a secret or insecurity within one's personality. Here, the doors represent divides between good and evil, and also the aspects of Go-won's self that she has locked away. As we already established, Go-won is just coming to terms with loving her whole self, but that will take time. Chu and Eve want to break through, tempt her with knowledge, and allow Go-won to come to terms with herself as a whole, and love herself. The doors are blockading them. Let's also take a look at the clothing the girls wear. The house itself already gives off castle and cathedral vibes, so the dress must match that. Go-won wears a predominantly white, flowy dress, indicating innocence, youth, and naivety. The Eden girls, however, are wearing dark, long black cloaks, akin to those of a nun. This indicates they're succumbing to the darkness, but also foreshadows the religious illusions we will look into further on. When Go-won says, "When I open my eyes, a light illuminates her right eye." This just goes along with BBC's fascination with eyes and need to bring them into the imagery. We also saw Go-won play hide and seek with Chu and Eve. As they were chasing her, Go-won hid in the dark room. This is a room where you can't really see that much, so the visible is hidden. This goes along with the Rene Magritte apple from Heart Attack. Anyways, Chu and Eve invade this room, the one that represents Go-won's heart, as it is locked away and dark. Perfectly, after we see that, Go-won says, "The only person who can shine a light in my heart is me, one and only." This means that despite Eve and Chu's efforts to break into the room and let the light in, the only one who can truly enlighten and love herself is herself. Go-won. Go-won says this as she wears blue, which is the color of the wisdom of God. Through that she will find herself and love herself. Let's talk about the flowers and butterflies behind Go-won. The butterflies are Morpho, specifically Menelau's blue Morpho, or the Emperor butterfly. Not only is the butterfly her representative animal, but it also holds great meaning. Butterflies represent transformation and rebirth, a process Go-won is going to undertake to reunite with herself and fully love herself. The flowers behind her are red daisies. Daisies are interesting flowers because they actually are made from two separate flowers. They are the harmonious matrimony of two flowers. The center petals are surrounded by the rays of another petal, akin to the corona or crown of the moon that we see during a solar eclipse. Daisies symbolize new beginnings and true love, and, because they're red, they are thought to tell the unknown beauty of the possessor. These are all symbols to further convey Go-won's purpose in her journey. Go-won has lost her identity and self-confidence, and, thus, lost a part of herself. She doesn't know her beauty or the power she can have if she would just love herself. Eve and Chu are trying to tempt her, and to let her see that thinking for yourself is good, but Go-won is truly the only one that can make herself see that. That's why she says she is the only one who can let light into her heart. She has to learn to love herself first before she can truly think for herself.
한 세계에 떨어져 살고 있단 말해도 난 괜찮아. 주인공이 된 거니까. 에덴 같은 건 필요 없어. 손에 쥐어진 이 시간이 천국이란 뜻이니까. 어떤 꿈조차도 전부 이뤄질 듯한 느낌. 일상에 가득 퍼져간 것 같아. 행복으로 돌아가는 비밀의 문이 전부 다 열린 거야, baby. 눈을 감고서 입을 살짝 내밀고 나에게 키스하면 눈을 떴을 때 반짝이는 이 순간 진짜 나를 보게 돼. One and only, my one and only, my one and only love.
Let's first discuss Go-won looking into the mirror. In New, Eve said, "My face in the mirror, I ask myself who it is." Go-won does the same here. Now that Chu and Eve have tempted her and urged her to begin thinking for herself, Go-won is questioning herself and what she believes she is like. Who is Go-won? She can see her reflection, but it only reflects the outside. Who is Go-won, and what does she think? What are her opinions? Her self-image? Just as we do when we look in the mirror, we question what we represent when we see our reflection, and perhaps who we see ourselves as. Go-won is beginning to regard herself as special, precious, and so much more than she originally thought. She is gaining self-confidence. Go-won then said, "I don't need no Garden of Eden, the time in my hands means that I'm already in heaven." She says this as we see her shadow wearing a crown. The shadow is noticeably bigger than the actual Go-won, which conveys to us that the shadow Go-won is more powerful and much higher up in the hierarchy than the real Go-won. Go-won deems her actual self as lower than that of the Go-won she wants to become. As we stated, the shadow has all of the characteristics and dreams that we may not have yet become. Go-won wants to be confident and carry herself as a royal would. But the gap between her self-image and actual self is closing. We see Go-won join with her shadow self, and they are the same size, indicating their equality in Go-won's mind. She finally is going to manifest into the strong and powerful, self-confident Go-won she had dreamed of. We then see a quick flash of a gray cat, which again connects Go-won to Yeonjin, as we know she was the one who left the bracelet in around you and knocked over the thistles. Go-won then sings the lyrics, "The secret door to happiness, that door has opened." We hear this as we see Go-won look into the door of the dark room she hid in earlier. The one that represents Go-won's heart. Go-won is finding that the key to her happiness and peace in her life begins with self-love and acceptance of who she is. As we stated, she herself is the only one that can cause her greatest happiness and self-love, and she must make the change herself. That's when we see Go-won then wearing veils that cover her entire body. It's indicating to us that a butterfly girl is entering her cocoon, about to transform. A self-image metamorphosis. The veil not only represents a cocoon, but is also a traditional garment of marriages in the Catholic Church. Marriage, as we know, is the fateful union between two lovers. Traditionally, it is meant to be an offering between the lovers of their whole selves. When the groom lifts the bride's veil, it indicates that she fully belongs to her partner, and vice versa. This is Go-won preparing for the union between herself and the Go-won she envisioned that she would become. Now, Go-won has realized how precious she is, and how important her own original thought is. She is finally accepting loving herself, and is no longer insecure about doing so.
창에 비친 새로워진 나의 모습 이젠 낯설지가 않아 다시 또 들려오는 목소리
Go-won sat down below the chandelier that was finally lit, indicating the crown, she takes a bite of the pineapple. It is not a coincidence that the pineapple is Go-won's fruit, for it is a fruit that was considered a delicacy. It was the fruit that was first introduced to Europe by Christopher Columbus, and was well loved by royals. Even the top of the pineapple is dubbed the crown. In colonial America, the pineapple was often set at the table to indicate hospitality and regality, and was often at the table for a festive meal, like one of a celebration. Go-won's enlightenment is quite the celebration, if I do say so myself. It is no wonder that the pineapple is set right beside her as she takes a bite of her fruit to be exiled from Eden, and start thinking for herself. We don't see her do this final act of commitment until she lifts up her veil, which ties along with the matrimonial aspects we just discussed. She now is fully committed to herself. Now, let's talk about the obvious. Her hair changed once she ate the fruit. It turned blonde, indicating her enlightenment. In Victorian times, golden hair was associated with youth, beauty, and have even compared it to an angel's halo. It was a symbol of something precious, powerful, and sacred, but also was most definitely seen as enlightenment. Of course, Go-won now believes that she is the most precious person now that she has committed fully to loving herself. Her blonde hair just further indicates that she believes so, and reflects her aura of enlightenment. At the banquet table, we see Eve looking on to Go-won, and Chu looking on to Eve. This indicates that he views Go-won in a leadership position, one of royalty, and that Chu still only seeks the approval of Eve. What a lovesick puppy. Did you also notice that now, instead of shadows dancing, we see Go-won and her dancers? This time, it's the blonde Go-won, indicating that now that she has met equally with her shadow self, she is finally whole. Go-won also sings lyrics that mirror those from Let Me In. In Let Me In, Hazel sang, "It can't be a coincidence. It can't be rushed. The sweet whispering in my ear." Go-won's lyrics said, "The voice being heard again, I'm trying to listen. In this universe, it's not a coincidence that I've met myself." Like Hazel's lyrics stated, it was not a coincidence that either of these girls were called to the LOONAVERSE. They're here for a greater purpose, to spread color, and shape their new world with love and color. Go-won is then crowned with a crown of emeralds. Emeralds are known as the jewel of kings, and convey wealth and power of those who don it. Between lovers, it was thought to be a gemstone that could see through false and truth, and determine faithfulness between lovers. Go-won, now being crowned with it, has proved her ultimate devotion to herself. She truly loves herself, the one and only precious Go-won. We see her being crowned in a cathedral, still wearing white, indicating her purity and innocence. The cathedral is set within Go-won's heart, as we see the light coming through the door. Now, Go-won can finally let the light in not just her heart, but the entire place as well. We see light pouring in as she runs with the other Eden girls, indicating their shared enlightenment, celebration, and happiness. We also see their happiness and celebration of self-love from the confetti flying everywhere. Go-won truly has found her one and only love, herself.